by straight away going into what I have to share. Thanks very much for the very kind introduction. And again, I will again apologize for what has been happening. Um, I will not go into anything about myself. I think that was more than enough that was said about me, and I will just go ahead to discuss the practical applications of data analytics in the oil and gas industry. So I barely have probably like 5 years experience in the industry. From my profile, you may have picked that. And I think that is sufficient to be able to talk about it objectively. So I will proceed. And I will just to catch our attention and in the beginning, do you know that it takes most people, the time it takes most people to read this thing I've just put up, by that time, about 8,000 barrels of oil have been used up in the world just before you read this up. So that speaks to some form of importance of the industry, constituting majorly of the energy source that is used by humanity, of course, after the sun. So I would like to just go quickly through an introduction, maybe a disambiguation for those who may not have been conversant with the oil and gas industry, maybe just hearing of it from afar. I've been in that shoe myself, so I know what it feels like. Hopefully, after this engagement, you will both not be a total stranger to the industry, and you will be able to see opportunities and use cases to apply data science analytics in the field. So this slide is actually just something I'm not even necessarily going to go through. It's just about the history of oil exploration as we know it. It started very, very long ago in 1865. John D. Rockefeller, one of the, I think the richest people that used to live, acquired a share in an oil distillery, and then the whole process of oil exploration started. I'm sparing you some of the history. The initial discovery of oil and gas was actually an accident. So it was through seeps. So just people walking on the ground, and they just see something black coming out of the ground, and they became curious, took a look at it, and discovered it was oil and gas. And then all the other long things in between, I will strongly advise that you probably look it up for yourself. So that's about it. And today, it was from John Rockefeller to the oil companies that we now hear of and know of. So I'll just proceed and just give us a very, very high level explanation of how oil itself is formed. So my premise for doing this is that, well, if you have some form of understanding of what the first principles are, then most likely you can reason up and be able to think up solutions. So crude is actually formed from animal and plant matter. It is simply animal and plant matter deposited and actually covered by some elements of the subsurface, sand, rocks, and other things under very high conditions, under conditions of very high pressure and temperature, and then allowed to cook over thousands and millions of years, and then it forms what we know today to be oil and gas. So the diagram I'm showing on this slide simply just gives us some form of a historic look. So it is believed that in the prehistoric times, there were some animals and plants that existed then. They died off during some geological events and some biological events actually. And then they were buried, and then some of their remains and some of the remains of animals and plant materials that may have lived over like 550 to 100 years ago now form part of what we know to be oil and gas. So in this same picture, I'm attempting to communicate how I don't know how to use a pointer in Microsoft Teams, but essentially I would just try to move my mouse around. So when oil and gas, when hydrocarbons are formed, then it is the work of an exploration geoscientist who understands the processes of geology that uh, form hydrocarbon resources to then look at surface as at locations on the earth surfaces through the lens of data, to be specific seismic data, and then try then make predictions actually have, and then presents that to the company, who then decides to invest or not. And then the process of further verification is undertaken, and then the hydrocarbon resources are brought up to the surface, further processed, and then that is what we know it to be today. I am really being very high level, and I'm depending on answering the questions you may ask down the road to be a lot more clear. So the structure of the typical oil and gas industry is as shown here. So we have industry participants categorized primarily by the type of assets. So when we say assets in the oil and gas industry, it simply talks about the business function that they perform. So we have the production function. So in the production function, it is consisting mainly of two main business functions: exploration and production. So exploration, literally speaking, we explore for the possibility of hydrocarbons in certain locations. It's a lot more complex, to be honest. So typically we explore potential basins, and then in basins we have more technical terms like hydrocarbon plays. Then we come to the prospect, which is the precise container that we are looking at that contains hydrocarbon. I think some of the information is actually useless for you and it will take a lot of time, but just take it that some people have expertise to look at subsurface data and understand by the signals they see and the characteristics of the data, using the knowledge of geology, to be able to make predictions as to where you can find hydrocarbon and be able to quantify it. When that is done, a subsurface model is then built. So when that model is built, that subsurface model will actually be like a model of what the resources will look like in the subsurface. So how much of it, how is it constrained, where it is constrained, and even with a well plan as to, well, if you want to drain this, what is the best place you should actually perforate to bring this profitably to the surface. That model is then passed over to the production section. The uh, disciplines that like engineering, uh, there are production geologists. So essentially their task is to bring it out to the surface. So I'll leave it here and I'll depend on your question, like I said. Then down the road, we have the production and refining and also marketing functions. So then we have marketers, and then we have brokers. It is going to be a lot more clear, I assure you, as we discuss. So this is just to tell us or bring to our view now the present oil majors that are widely known. So of course you don't see an NPC here. It's not as if it's not an oil company, but these are multinationals and national oil companies that constitute the big guys in the industry. Looking at how the industry moved from the past to the present. I mentioned earlier about John D. Rockefeller. He was the founder and owner of Standard Oil, and it all started with him, and Standard Oil broke into pieces because at the time he held a very, very unfair monopoly of the market in the United States. He was taken to the industrial court, and the company was broken into subsidiaries. These subsidiaries down the road now became Chevron, became Mobil, and to what we know today as ExxonMobil and Chevron as the two major oil companies in America. Then away from the US, we have the Anglo-Persian company, which is the British now, um, partnering with the Iranians into what became BP today. So BP actually also today passed through the process of cooperation with the Saudi Arabian oil company, Saudi Aramco, and became what it is today. Then we have down the Anglo-Dutch oil company, which transformed to the Royal Dutch Shell and to what we know it today. So, and this is where I'm privileged to at least work at this point. In the oil and gas industry, we also have service providers. So essentially, the oil and gas business is a very expensive one. So companies don't see the need to actually invest in things that are not their core business. Then it brings it then for providers to come in. So for example, Slumbase popularly for geological data acquisition and sometimes even drilling contracting. So there are a lot more. I know a lot more, but I will just restrict this presentation to these ones, hoping that there are service providers apart from the main oil and producing companies. So this is a bird industry looks like. So it is divided mainly into three. We have the upstream, the midstream, and the downstream. Hopefully this figure does a good job, because in the upstream there we have the exploration, then we have the field development, then we have the production operations and field processing. Please, if you have any questions, note it. This is quite high level, like I said. Then away from the upstream, we come to midstream, where we have players in the storage business, long distance transportation, and field engineering or pipeline and whatsoever. Then finally to downstream, where the hydrocarbon resources are then refined, and then byproducts are manufactured, and then the marketing happens and down to us, the consumers. Just focusing a bit on the midstream and the downstream, essentially the core activities that happen there are just moving the hydrocarbon resources from the point of production to point of processing, and from processing to consumption. So this infographic hopefully does justice to it, and I will move to the next one if I'm not too fast. Hope I'm not speaking to myself. Hello?
No, you're not. No, you're not. Please go ahead, sir.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you. Then focusing mainly on downstream, like I mentioned earlier, activities here essentially consist of the refining that is done, production of petrochemicals, development of biofuels, then some form of supply chain management and distribution, trading, and retail. Going back to the upstream, so I'm bringing this up just to let us know that there are developments in the upstream. Before now, we only knew of perforating the subsurface and getting the hydrocarbon resources after exploration. But now there is a new form of it, like in Canada, in Alberta to be specific, You have the tar sands, which is you don't drill for anything. The sands are in the surface. You just excavate them and you process out hydrocarbon resources out of them. So the second picture to the right tries to depict that. So it is in the form of oil sands and tar sands. So again, you may have seen this. If you live around Lagos, I've seen a few rigs there that one could easily see without traveling. So again, hydrocarbon resources, we explore them both onshore, which is on land, and offshore, which is in water or in the deep oceans. So in the offshore, we use onshore rigs. Sorry, in the onshore, we use onshore rigs, and offshore, we use offshore platforms or rigs. So I'm still maintaining high level. If you have any questions, please take note. So so this is just to further just tell us onshore we have deep water and shallow water. So we have offshore and shallow offshore. So deep water and shallow offshore. So in the deep water, how the process happens is that they have a floating production facility. So it is there in situ at the location where the hydrocarbon resources are actually produced. And then some of the pre-processing is done on the platform before it is then transported using ships and other cargo vessels to other facilities for further processing. Then this brings us to the reason why we are here, data analytics in oil and gas. So I struggled a bit putting this together, but I took encouragement because I know in the course of your training with Octave Analytics, with whom also I've had the privilege of doing a training, you would have gotten all the basics of what data analytics is and its constituents. So then I don't need to really repeat to you that, of course, artificial intelligence, machine learning is an integral part of data analytics. So I here and in subsequent slides, I just wish to share from my own perspective some of the applications of data analytics in the oil and gas industry and how it has been adopted so far in the industry. So for adoption, I just wish to say that apart from the army, the most innovative sector globally is the oil and gas industry, but it is very secretive. So they spend a hefty amount of money in research and development and technologies that you may not have dreamt of. Honestly, they may have been working on it for a long time, but it is a very secretive industry in the sense that that is you sign non-disclosure before you work for any oil and gas major. That means you don't divulge some information because it could constitute competitive advantage to the company, and it can even affect the market. It is an industry that is heavily regulated. So, for example, I can't talk about the happenings in the company to just anybody. I mean, I would choose what to say because that knowledge alone can determine how people invest in the market or refuse to invest in it. And that is technically called, it can enable insider trading, for which the company will be heavily fined by the government and regulators. So that is just the disclaimer. So that is to explain why there is a lot of secret in the technology. So that being said, the oil and gas industry is actually looking into data and analytics. And I want to tell you that there is no company now that I know, especially among the majors, that already does not have as a department an analytics data and analytics department in the company. No, there is none. And I would also say that, in fact, the goal for most companies is actually to be able to drill the first AI well from exploration to production without any, active human participation in it. And I would tell you that companies have gone far in that regard. One of the companies that is, I would say, okay, they have their law allows them to divulge their information. So it's the Norwegian oil company. Please go and read a bit about it. Already, they have a completely AI managed oil operation, a rig that no human being is going there. Everything is done using either AI and remotely controlled. So for the ones that I know companies like Shell have taken some form of AI. We are using virtual assistants already in our downstream sector. So essentially, in the lubricants and domestic fuel businesses. ExxonMobil is working very closely with major companies in the US, developing robotic technology for oil exploration in deep oceans. And of course, you can see from this slide that Shell was actually a first to launch an AI assistant for oil and gas customers. A lot of technology and innovation is happening here in the data and analytics space. And just to give you an insight into what it looks like, the influence of data and analytics is estimated to reach like $2.8 billion by 2022. And that figure is growing at a compound rate of 12%. I'll tell you that this is actually underestimated, and I know what I'm saying. So just further again to report on companies and how they are adopting it. So these are just news articles and clippings I'm bringing in just to communicate their information in the open. So in 2017, where who have been and who are we? I don't know how to pronounce this company very well. Announced a collaborative effort with Sinopec, which is the Chinese national oil company, to design what is described as a smart manufacturing platform. Total, autonomous subsurface robots. So a lot is happening there. So where do we then see potential applications for data analytics in the oil and gas industry? So in exploration. So from the process of gathering the data, analyzing the data, modeling the data, and drawing insights about hydrocarbon exploration, machine learning, AI, and the whole spectrum of data analytics can find good application there. And some of it is already there actually. So I'll just maybe just mention one. So essentially what the exploration geologists do is get seismic data. Of course, sorry, I did not show you that. If there's a need, during the question and answers, I could easily bring up a seismic data to show you. So essentially what they do is they look at it and they map it and bring out a subsurface model. Now I want to tell us that even in the company I work with, already there is an automated, technologies for automatic interpretation of seismic data. This is actually a nutshell I've said. I can explain that a lot more when the question and answer time comes, but my point is we can apply a lot of it in the exploration space. A lot of engineering, heavy equipment engineering happens in the oil and gas industry. So one of the things, and this technology is already deployed, of course, for predictive maintenance, where sensors are placed in production facilities, and then signals are captured, machine learning algorithms process the data and actually either alert people as to the need for maintenance or provide other management insights. So that is an application potential. Then for demand forecasting, so it depends very heavily on selling our products and selling them profitably. So if you can work in that space where you are able to optimize the process of demand forecasting, then that's another good application. Then remote surveillance. So because oil and gas companies have a lot of infrastructure located in remote areas. So if we can come up with technologies for remote surveillance, of course, powered by AI, data analytics, machine learning, that would actually be a good area of application. And in this area, I just want to there's a company here in Port Harcourt run by one of my friends and a former colleague here in Shell. So I'll just share with you latest technology they have worked on. So a lot of emphasis is placed on safety in the oil and gas industry. It's a very dangerous industry, just to say. So what these guys have done was to come up with an AI-driven system that actually uses deep learning and image processing to remotely manage operation sites and report HSC, or that is safety violations. So are you working with the right equipment? Are you doing the right things? That is being remotely monitored and flagged, as well as reported to the relevant authorities. So this is just a use case. This is live in Port Harcourt here. A company has that technology already developed. So what I've done here is actually to just say, okay, let me delve into some of those areas that are potential use cases. So I said, for example, the business case of predictive maintenance. So you can bring in the you can bring in a lot of machine learning and Internet of Things to record lifespan of equipment, to actually predict maintenance and even automate maintenance activities. And I want to tell you that any increase, any order of magnitude increase in equipment availability in the oil and gas industry is a very, very huge profit potential, and it will reduce loss by a very, very heavy amount. So just to give you a picture of when I speak of profit and loss in the context of the oil and gas industry, nobody is talking about maybe, of course, the currency naira is out of the question, and nobody is talking about $1 million. And that is being honest with you. So for example, if you just want to rent a rig on land per day, the rental is minimum of $500,000 per day. For offshore rigs, it is minimum of $1 million per day. So if your company rents a drilling rig and that rate, you can actually wrap your mind around the kind of money we are talking about. That is exclusive of production and staff costs. So knowledge management. So a lot of data. I mean, when the concept of big data came out, it was already big in the oil and gas industry. A lot of it. Petabytes of data is what we are dealing with in our daily operations. So if you can come up with systems that will help both to manage that data and to process that data to extract insights, it's a good use case and potential application. So from digitizing documents, which is like a very basic thing we understand. So, the companies have existed for hundreds of years. So before now, knowledge may have been stored on paper. If you can digitize it, it's already a strong use case. And if you can build AI bots that can actually work on the basis of that data to provide either information or to carry out some tasks, then fantastic use cases exist there. For production planning, so like I spoke already about the existence of a lot of data. So their data for both, say maybe for demand forecasting, planning of production and operations, and doing some optimization on the processes that are being done in the production space, then it's a very fantastic use case. So in essence, I'm saying that the opportunities exist almost across board. In fact, the hardest place to apply The hardest place to apply data and analytics is in the upstream. From the midstream, I assure you the application is a lot easier and has more potential. So why am I even saying this? So it's not as if the upstream is rocket science as it were, but the problem is that it brings in several disciplines. So for example, at exploration alone, we are geologists, we are looking at geophysicists, we are looking at geochemists, um, we are looking, okay, apart from data managers, so many discipline and deep discipline knowledge is all integrated before oil and gas resources are explored. So that is something that needs actually to be brought out. So there are other use cases actually. So if you can bring in use cases in data modeling, like I implied earlier, if you can, and some of these use cases, I'm providing a little bit of detail there. So for example, for data modeling, if can come up with applications that employ machine learning that enables computers and existing systems to process data faster and more accurately, it's a fantastic use case. Key to what is done is actually deciding where to drill or where do we have oil. There, if you can apply data analytics to rock physics data and bring in your geological knowledge, then a good use case exists here. So I think but this is not nearly what I want to discuss. It is in the transfer of my slide to here. I think I transferred an earlier version that did not go beyond this. But hopefully I've communicated a bit and we can use this as a basis for further discussion. So I'll stop here and I'll thank you very much for listening, hoping that I've communicated. Thank you very much. So I will take your questions, your contributions, and what have you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. It was such an awesome presentation. And I know our participants and trainees, they learned a lot. And I know they are burning with questions. So yes, as our speaker has said, it's time for questions. If you have any questions, please, signify by a show of your hands. And then we can always tell you to unmute your mics and you talk. And if not, then you can type your questions in the comment section. We have the icon on your screen. Just type in your question. So open for anybody who has a question. So yeah, anyone? Are you all there? First of all.
Good question. I mean.
Yes.
You're all so quiet. I'm wondering. Hello, everybody.
I will tell them to get them 10 them.
Hello, Toy. Do you want to ask a question? I can see. Okay, you unmuted your mic initially.
Yeah, I have a question, but I'm on transit, so the network might be. I might have a network challenge. So I'm looking
Well,
for
it's
a way
clear.
to
We hear you
just
well.
type. Okay.
Okay, you can type your question. Then I can.
I'm looking for the place to type the question, so I couldn't get it.
You can ask. I think we can hear you. So if you ask.
Okay, very well.
Yeah.
So I want you to explain the predictive maintenance very well as
Okay.
as to the use of data analytics and predictive maintenance for maybe rig equipment and some other equipment on the rig.
Okay, thank you, Toy.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Okay, do I go for the answer or wait for others?
Yeah, you can go for the answer, sir.
Okay, so for the predictive maintenance, it is a technology that has been deployed and I've been part of that deployment even in my small space here. So basically what is done is simple. Properties of equipment and infrastructure are understood by the various disciplines. So, for example, and a good use case, actually, I will just give you a good use case. Presently, the maintenance of the Third Mainland Bridge I learned is happening in Lagos. So a similar and applicable use case is simple. When you build the bridges or such high investment, I mean high resource investment, we install sensors on them. These sensors are specially designed, so they probably monitor the corrosive properties of the material and constantly report on the state of affairs, maybe through pictures or through some chemical data. This data is then integrated into an AI-enabled system, which actually analyzes it and make predictions on, is this thing functioning well on the basis of the data we've been collecting? Do we need to maintain it at this time, or should it be in the future, and so on and so forth? So that similar application is what happens in our oil and gas industry. There is, for example, we call them compressors. So essentially, when you bring out the oil and gas resources from the remote locations where they are pumped, they are usually sent through pipelines down to the processing stations. So you will know, well, I think you will understand that because it's going to travel over a long distance, the pressure that will push the oil or gas will deplete over time. And therefore, some compressors are installed along the way in booster stations to help the pumping. Now, these compressors, they are installed in remote locations. So what this use case has done is to install sensors on those compressors, and it monitors their performance by daily sending out data about their performance, and then machine learning algorithms make predictions about the need or the need or the I don't know how to say this better in English, but they make predictions as to if there is a need for maintenance or there is no need, and if there is, when. That is now just providing a predictive maintenance schedule on the basis of data that is being collected through sensors directly from the equipment. So that is a use case, and you can think of it. I just told you about the fact that you can use it for the bridge, and in fact, let me just tell you an open secret. I am already working on something like that for a PhD program somewhere. So that's why I'm even, I find just how it is in predictive maintenance. And if you want to look at it from your car, if you can have a way of capturing signal, maybe from the sound of your engine, then you can as well build an AI or a machine learning driven system that will actually tell you when to go for servicing and when not to. So this is an open idea that you may wish to explore. But the applications, as I am growing in the field, I just see the applications abundant everywhere. So hopefully I've addressed this, and maybe I'll take the next question.
Thank you very much, sir. And thank you, Toy, for that awesome question. Does anybody else want to ask a question? I can see that my granny. Okay.
Good afternoon.
Is that Hubert?
Yeah, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon. It's Henry.
Okay, hello, Henry.
Hi, Henry.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, Mr. Cooper. Trust me, this
good
has
afternoon,
been a very much anticipated session. I really enjoyed the session, and with everything you explained so far, I would have to say that there has been advanced technology in the petroleum industry, and I've got to understand that data science is applied in every sphere in the petroleum industry. Okay, first of all, I studied petroleum and gas engineering for my first degree. So I'm also part of the graduate trainees for this Octave analytics program. So basically, my first question. Okay, I have just one question for now. I'm trying to. There's another question I'm trying to agree on before you leave. But the first one is basically experience-wise. So practically, you've been in the oil industry for a couple of time, and considering you starters or we beginners who are looking to venture into the oil industry and also want to practice data science as well. Before I ventured into this program, I was thinking of attempting my master's. First of all, not until I saw Octave. No, until I decided to give Octave analytics a chance in my life to study data. So also now that my program it's Octave is about coming to an end.
Yeah.
I want you to give an advice, a very candid advice on what you think should be my next step after studying petroleum engineering for my first degree, and now I've taken a course in data science. Like, what is your next advice? What do you think? Do you think I should go for my master's and study, say, data science or study petroleum engineering to stand a chance to be a full-blown data scientist in the petroleum industry? So, that basically wraps it up.
Okay, let me take a stab at that, but that is to also be conscious of the fact that personal choices are personal choices, right? So, what I would advise is, and this is strictly me, and so because it is an advice, you are not obligated to even listen. In fact, take it as noise. So, I would okay. So my little understanding of the analytics field is not certificate dependent. So I'm not saying certification. So I say certificate, not certifications. So certifications, very good, but you don't necessarily need a university certificate for it. And I assure you, I know what I'm saying. I used to be a teacher, so I also know that in a sense, I have an understanding of why I'm even saying this. So basically, if I were to advise you, so coming into the oil and gas industry, and I'll be very open with you, people enter with their first degrees, but usually master's degrees are considered. I'm not claiming that I understand all that goes into the recruitment, but I can always say this because I know that several people with whom I'm joined and who are just coming in, most of them have some form of masters. But even if you don't have a masters, a very good thing, a very good requirement, and maybe this applies everywhere, is to have at least an experience in the solution of a real life problem. That is highly valued in the industry. So basically, they are looking for very, very bright minds that have used the minds to do something. Not that whatever you study,
even in different fields.
Yes, every field. I mean, it's so every field. Let me just leave it at that. So down to the specifics of your question, if I were to advise you, which of course I don't think I have the right to, but I would simply say, okay, get a master's degree from a good university. Covenant University is a good one. I know I did not go to Covenant. I went to Federal University of Technology in Yola, but that's a different discussion entirely. But go get a good master's degree from any university of your choice. But make sure that you work on developing your competencies in data analysis. Work on projects. Do projects. Make sure that if we go to your GitHub today, we can always see evidence of things you have solved. Okay, I've interacted with the head of the Octave Analytics, so I would also recommend that he's a good guy to talk to. So you can always maybe intern or even work on some projects. Have those in your repertoire. I mean, have a repertoire of your projects in your pocket. Then that is what will help. But essentially, you don't necessarily need to go for a degree in data analytics. But if you want to, it's not bad. But it's not. I would not say it is necessary. Just take the caveat that this is just me talking, and I may not know what I'm talking about. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. So yeah, thank you also, Henry, for that very practical
Okay,
question.
just to add to Henry is that if you look at people that are into data and analytics, you will see that they come from a variety of backgrounds. Usually what you require is just some bit of understanding of basic mathematics. And if you are able to learn fast, that's all. So you see, the people that have stood out in that field, at least to the best of my knowledge, studied things like physics, engineering, mathematics, statistics, and some computer science. So that is my take on it. Sorry to cut you short, Tope. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. Definitely, that was also a very nice, addition to what you said. Thank you very much. So again, the floor is still open. If anybody else wants to ask a question, and of course, no question is you can ask and ask away. Okay. Victor, I can see your hands are up. And I know that Victor is also a petroleum engineer. So yes, and I see Hubert is also, his hands are also. Let's take Victor's question first, and then we move to Hubert. So Victor, you can unmute your mic.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mr. Tofa.
Good evening, my brother.
Thank you so much for the awesome presentation. So I think we've met before. I don't remember. Yes, that was at when the webinar.
Oh, okay.
So I was the one.
Oh yeah, I remember you quite very well. Yeah, nice presentation by the way. That from that day too.
Thank you very much, sir. Yes, sir. So I just wanted to ask a question. It's kind of related to what Henry asked earlier. It's as regarding building projects. So for example, if you're looking at into the oil and gas industry, so looking at during the there are two questions, but I'll start with the first one about building a portfolio, like a data science portfolio. And you already mentioned GitHub, which is, I was really glad when you mentioned that, because that's something that really is good. But how do you sometimes, especially for example, like in an oil and gas, most times when the data is sensitive and you don't get it available, how do you how can you work on projects relating to, for example, if you want to go into an oil and gas industry, how do you get data to work on those kind of things? So that'll be my first question.
Okay. Do you want me to go for the first question first?
Okay. Let me just ask the second one. Okay.
Yeah.
Then the second question I have, sir, is for like you said, a lot of us are aware of the transition in energy and the downtime in the oil and gas industry. So some people are already, so if you're looking at something like maybe smart grid analytics or something related to energy, how do you how is that like in the oil and gas? Will you recommend someone to go into maybe looking at renewable, or will you recommend the person to still continue like in the oil and gas petroleum engineering core, like E&P? Yes, so that's my second question. Yes, sir.
Okay, so honestly, if I want to advise, maybe a good background to that advice would be that just know that there is no oil major today that is not also into renewables. None. Because it is called new energy, and it is part of the strategy for almost all the companies that I know. You can Google that. I can share videos with you of how companies have gone into it, Shell inclusive. So it's an emerging field in the oil and gas industry. It's called new energies, renewables, and all of that. And in fact, every company, every single company that I think I know of among the majors already has a strategic target of reducing its carbon footprint. So then that implies that they are necessarily then going to have to take up options. So I would like to tell you about some investments. So Shell has divested that, so I can easily talk about it. But Shell used to have a solar farm in the North Sea. So what that means is that they built a business around generating solar energy from was it a wind farm? A wind farm actually in the North Sea. Sorry, I made the mistake of saying solar farm. A wind farm on the North Sea. So what they did was, okay, the way they will install their rigs in the deep ocean. I know there is a lot of wind offshore. So a complete wind farm was built offshore North Sea, and then the energy is sold. So maybe this is the teacher in me just trying to provide an example of the fact that even E&P companies are actively involved in renewables. So if you develop yourself along the path of renewables, you are still on the right track. But the only comfort we have, sorry, this is a bit selfish speaking, is that oil is not just going to go away very soon. You understand? So on the basis of that, a lot of things will still depend on oil and our hydrocarbon resources. So that is my attempt at answering that question. I don't know if it came out right.
Yes, sir. Yes, very fine. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Did I miss the second question?
Yes, the other question was about like building a project, like how you recommend building a project as it relates.
Okay, beautiful. Sorry for missing that out. Okay, so and I will let you into one beautiful secret. So it is only a few countries where data is not free. I don't know. Right now, I'm even looking at it online. There is a lot of sites. Every subsurface data is available free online. It is just large. So the the Norwegian oil company Equinox, I don't know if I'm getting the name. So it is the one that I said earlier that is already having a completely AI-driven rig operation. So all their data, all their subsurface data, is in the open. In the UK, all oil companies are required to open source all their data. I don't think it is the same case with America, but so it is there online. I can help with resources there, but if you Google Equinox, let me. So they have like an Equinox data center. So you can just go there, all the types of subsurface data you are looking for. And I'm talking seismic, well data, well logs, engineering, and production data. It's all open source. So you can always get that and build your models on that basis. Another way, and that is how we've managed to work, at least just revealing some of the secrets of how we work, was that you could as well build synthetic data and build your models on them. So a lot of that is done in the oil and gas industry. But just to be specific with your questions, a simple Google search of free, if you want free geophysical data, free seismic data, just put it that way. You will have a lot to. In fact, I'm sure you cannot download what you need.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Victor. Thank you very much for that awesome question. And so, Hubert, I see your hands are still up, so you can, unmute your mic and ask your question.
Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Temitope. Yeah, my name is Hubert. I have really been, I'm also one of the graduate trainees in the Octave Analytics program. I've also anticipated this for a very long time now, and I am really excited to have you here. And I'm also heartbroken that your slide isn't complete because it actually stopped at the interesting part where you started talking about the industry use cases. So basically, I would like to also appreciate Henry because he also talked about what I was going to ask about, which was, the master's program and what exactly we should do during our masters to make ourselves relevant in the industry, which you answered very good and well, pointing out that we should put out relevant projects and work on relevant projects. And I also want to appreciate Victor, who just spoke not too long ago, because I also attended his webinar. He spoke on the application of data science in the oil and gas industry. He talked about so many interesting places where it has been applied in production, exploration, and all of that. And also, on your slide, on one of your slides, I also noticed you mentioning about, yeah, the final slide we talked about the other use cases, and you pointed out where exactly to drill, which was something I've been very interested in, because the oil industry is one that has a whole lot of issues when it comes to losses, and when losses occur, and losses exactly, that's the slide that talks about drilling, pinpointing exactly where to drill. So I also have had thoughts of ways of this oil and gas industry is one that has a whole lot of uncertainties. So yeah, no matter how much geologists will come up and be like, yo, man, this is where the oil is, do it here. You cannot be certain unless you drill. And once you drill and there's no oil there, we're talking about billions of dollars being thrown away on the ground. So that's one topic I've been really interested in personally, and I would really love to work on. So also during my internship at Total, or during my undergraduate internship at Total, I was opportune to use one of the industry software, Prosper, under the IPM tools. So I was able to use it to optimize a gas well. So now my question is, I have other questions as well, but this one comes first. What do you think would make data analytics stand out when it comes to production optimization? Because it always seems like, because during my on the graduate training program we've been in so far, we've seen 1,001 cases being used in telecoms, in finance, in insurance, but very little in the oil and gas industry. And I think it's because of some level of competition that already exists prior this time when it comes to data analytics. So is it possible for us to have, if is it possible for, I don't know how to construct my question right now, but I believe there's some level of competition that's already exists when it comes to industry tools that are already on ground to fix certain sort of problems. For production optimization, you could rather use Prosper. So why use data? I wanted to point out a way where we could appreciate data analytics more in this particular regard, rather than using the existing oil and gas tools.
Okay, fine. I think for that I'm quite competent to answer you. So I was a mathematician and I applied well at that. And I want to assure you that all the tools you may have known already used in the oil and gas industry and several industries, actually, all the software, so they are built on the basis of mathematical models. So now, what does data analytics bring to the table that is completely different and better? Sorry, then here I will just speak a little, maybe some form of background here. So mathematical models, if you have any idea about them, usually the maxim is that there is no perfect model. I mean, in fact, the way we say it is that all models are wrong. All models are wrong. And of course, they have served very well to this point, but they are somehow rigid. So therefore, mathematical models do not actually avail themselves to the flexibility of data science, of machine learning and analytic models. So I don't know if this is a useful thing to mention, but I hope you know that in data science analytics, you are building the system on the basis of data. It is a data-driven model. While in the applications that already exist, it is actually on the basis of physical or mathematical models. So to try to address your question, obviously data-driven models are more useful as we see today. I mean, the innovation that has been driven by data-driven models, I mean, is almost unthinkable in the short span of time that it has existed if you compare it with the conventional mathematical models. Remember, I'm a mathematician and I specialize in mathematical modeling. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that there is a higher tendency to get greater accuracy using data-driven models or solutions that are driven by data models. So if you I remember, you don't have to go through all the process of having people write research papers on all of this. All you need is data, and data, and the system will learn from the data and build or constitute that model on the basis of it, and then on that you can then build to address the issues that may be found there. So basically, saying and summarizing it is existing applications, believe me, are driven by mathematical models. Data analytics models are proving much more powerful because they don't need to go through the rigors of the mathematics. All they need is the real life data in the field, and then the system tends to understand the data and the relationships that exist between the variables and comes up with the model, and then that model is applied. Okay, now think about it. Since when did we have self-driving cars? Think about if you were supposed to write the conventional code to drive for self-driving cars. Think of how difficult that is going to be. But now with data and analytics, is simply a deep learning model and image processing model. Camera captures the picture live. Information is taken into the model, and it instructs the car that this is what you have ahead of you, this is what you should do, and this is what you should not do. So I hope the teacher in me has not come out to speak too much, but I am just saying that there is a lot that data analytics can bring to the data to the oil and gas industry. And something I've not mentioned to you is that the oil and gas industry is a bit conservative. Yes, on the gen or off. Yeah. Sorry, I am working with some other colleagues in the house here. So, but where am I going with this? The industry is conservative, and you will understand. People that have spent 50 years working in the way they know how to work, all of a sudden you are telling them you can bring a system that will most likely keep them out of employment. So if they are in the process, if they are in the position to approve or disapprove, then you will know that the natural human tendency is for them to resist at first until convinced sufficiently. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. That was about to be my next question about how these data analytics in the oil industry usually, I think one of the major constraints it faces for improvement and development and advancement in the oil and gas industry is the issue of it taking over people's jobs, and how I think most people just fight it, and that's the reason why it's not so pronounced yet. Well, I really appreciate what you've said, and it's very clear now as you differentiated the industry tools from the data analytics, which is the mathematical modeling. And yeah, I really appreciate that. I kind of have forgotten my second question, but I really appreciate, and I would really appreciate it if you had gone through a particular, because you said you've been in data analytics in the oil and gas industry for about 5 years now. So I would have loved it
I've
if
done
you...
some project, yeah.
Sorry?
And I've done some analytics
Yes,
project yet.
exactly. I would have appreciated if you would have been able to go through any of your projects, even just to summarize one of it, at least from start to scratch. I really appreciated the way you broke down. You really showed that you were a teacher by going from first principles, showing us about exploration, production, moving forward. And, for those of us who probably don't know a lot about the oil and gas industry. So I would really appreciate it if you had the time to break down your projects to us. But if you don't have the time for that, you could send it to our emails. We really appreciate that.
Okay, I will look into that. But remember what I mentioned to you earlier. So every project I work on doesn't belong to me. It's the company's project, and I'm bound by a non-disclosure agreement. But I can talk about some of it. One of them is this predictive maintenance that I told you about, compressors. This is a real project that I worked on, and it is live. It is working now. Another project that I worked with some people on is called so presently so there's something we call proprietary tools. So usually it is like trade secret, if you like. So, but I can explain to you what happened. So usually when wells are drilled, part of the work that is done during the drilling is to collect more information. And how that is done is through logging tools. So some of the tools are lowered after drilling, some they are attached to the drill bit itself, and as the drilling is happening, sensors are collecting data and sending for further understanding of the well and drilling process. So basically, one of the projects we worked on was on well logs. So one of the fields that my company has been active in is in the Netherlands. It's called the NAM. So Shell is essentially out of the NAM, but it has been in the NAM, which is onshore North Sea, for more than 50 years. So along the way, it has drilled thousands of wells. So, and we have a lot of log information from those wells. So what did we do on that project? We used the existing well data, log data, and built a tool that will actually predict subsurface properties of a geological location that has not yet been drilled on the basis of the log data which was collected when some thousands of wells were drilled. So we use the log data to train a model that is able to predict what petrophysical properties of a yet undrilled well will look like. The model so far has been performing at least very well, say slightly above average. I mean, just to tell you about the concept of uncertainty in the oil and gas industry, just hope you know that the whole of the money you hear them make and the success they have reached, no company has had more than 30% success in its operations. So if you can improve it from up to I mean they drill 10 wells and they get 4 or 5 or 6 exactly as predicted, that's big money. That's big money, and that's hugely what is it now, upsetting the industry. I mean, loosely using that word.
Okay.
So that's one thing I can just add there.
Oh, thank you very much, sir. This last thing you just spoke about, I'm really excited to hear it because it's actually something I imagined. During our one of our classes, we had an assignment where we had to generate an industry problem and then fix it. So my own problem was to work on reducing the losses that are incurred during drilling dry holes. So my own assumptions originally, analytic process I was going to use was to carry out log data, correlation of log data, and then merged with seismic data to create a better understanding of underground geological formations. So have a better understanding of formations to decide whether or not and improve and reduce the uncertainties of oil presence or absence. So I'm really excited that it's actually already put in place, and I would really love to know more about that. Wow. So my final question on this is, so I'm someone who believes in self-improvement and someone who always should always shoot for the stars as much as possible. So I'm always trying to improve myself. So after my undergraduate in petroleum and gas engineering, I took on this program. Initially, I had desires of going into improved petroleum design to improve production optimization and all of that. So I was going to opt for advanced chemical engineering, but after this program, I don't really think that is going to be a good path for me anymore, because this has really opened my eyes so much that I believe that domain knowledge is so important when it comes to data analytics and all of that. So I want to ask if it's safe to say that it is advised that we can go ahead to follow dreams based or be advanced in our careers based on our dreams rather than just this tool called data analytics. So I know data analytics is fantastic and all of that, and it's something that's applied in a whole lot of industries, and it's a skill that every one of us should have and which we are all developing on. So I think it's something that we could have while following our dreams and improving on our domain knowledge. I just want to ask if it's safe to say that. So it's safe to also still go take a master's in petroleum and gas engineering while you're developing your skills top notch in data science and data analytics.
Yes, sure. And then maybe I should just also mention here that if you know the oil and gas industry, right, it is a very objective industry. So what do I mean? I studied operations research. I've never done even biology in my life, so just to shock you. So I'm not into the life sciences, as it were. I was just physics and mathematics major. But today I work in exploration, and I trained as an exploration geophysicist here in Shell, and I'm working as an exploration geoscientist. What does it mean? And why am I even bringing this point up? It simply says, if you can demonstrate that you are teachable, and maybe some evidence of your capacity to solve problems, the oil and gas industry is happy to absorb you. I mean, so you can dream wide. But one thing that made me sad in the discussion we are having is that nobody is talking about starting a company. Nobody is talking about startups. We're all thinking of getting these jobs. Don't think I'm a spoiler because I already have the work and I want to stop people. No. I earlier just actually mentioned something about one of my friends that left Shell and opened a company here in Port Harcourt, and I'm telling you, doing better than here. In fact, sitting on the same table with the management of Shell, and well, he has a lot of development for oil and gas, and one of his applications was the one I just shared the idea with about remote operations surveillance. So basically, maybe I will also use this opportunity to preach this message. If you saw in my profile, I'm a small business person and I'm driven by it strongly. I mean, take some good risk. It's barely costs maybe 20,000 naira to register a company today. With your laptop, you already have your office. If you have any use case that you dream about, you can as well see if you develop it into a useful product. Honestly speaking, maybe this is out of this discussion entirely. Just take your time and go through the startup ecosystem and see what young people like. Of course, I'm not young again, but what young people like you are doing. But I mean, even young people like myself, and I was just joking. I'm actively involved in that. I mean, so yes, it's good to get a job because it's just good to be able to be independent. But let's also think of what we can do. I mean, if you just come up with a good product, you sell it, you are in the market already. So sorry, I had to digress and speak to that point.
Oh no, sir. That was just thank you very, very much, sir, for that. In fact, because I think a lot of young people are well, not just only young people, are just always thinking about where to work, and no one is really talking again about startups or owning a company and stuff. So I hope that resonated with a lot of our participants and trainees in the program. Thank you very, very much, sir. I think we just have time for just one more question. I don't know if anybody in the group would like to ask a question because our expert today is just dishing out like serious, knowledge and sharing his experiences and stuff. So, I mean, now is a good time to ask your question. So, does anyone have a question? Christosi or Lalere, do you want to ask a question? Okay, please ask the question.
Sorry, I joined in late. I was struggling all evening to join with my account, so I joined in late. I wanted to ask first: is there going to be like this recording, maybe available after now, so that I can follow up everything?
Yes, we will be sending. Of course, we'll be sending the recording to everyone who registered or who attended this program. The recording will be shared to everyone.
Then secondly, basically on the startups is talked about, that's actually my interest. I live in Uyo, and well, it's a good place where there are good road infrastructures and all, but there are not so many companies. So since around early last year, because of my drive towards data analytics, I actually have the dream to set up a data analytics company here. I'm targeting next year. So that's actually why all my knowledge is not so much of so that I can get employed. Definitely, I see like an opportunity where I can also make others learn about data analytics, get them trained, build data analysts, and then set up the company. So that's my dream. So based on what you said along that line, is there a way probably I can be assisted in terms of maybe mentoring or something? Because the problem, one of the reasons I joined this training is because I actually just lack, like, let me not say direction. Like, I'm just doing it on my own. I'm just watching videos. I don't really have anyone that can pull me by the hand and say, okay, walk me through the path. So I'm actually asking, I don't know if I should direct it to the guest or to the company, if I can get an assistance in just finding, that's my passion, to actually set up. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so fine. Let me answer for Blessing without talking to him. Blessing can surely help you where he can help you. That one I can vouch for him. And then I will also tell you that I'm also very, 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 very that is what I've done elsewhere, and I'm passionate about it.
I didn't hear you say you were very something.
Very, very supportive. I mean, very available to help as much as I can. And honestly, I'm still building there's something I'm coming up with. But essentially, it is in the startup ecosystem space. So I've been working with it with somebody outside of Nigeria. But so I want to like domesticate what we are doing outside of Nigeria, and that is exactly the space. So from ideation, from just come with any stupid idea, let's talk about it. Let's see if we can make it a product. So fine, I'm fine. And by the way, we we have a startup in Uyo already. One driver project.
I won't mind.
So we are.
I won't really mind.
So we started something there with my friend. Yeah.
Okay, maybe
no problem. We can talk a lot.
I've been looking for. I searched online. I didn't see anything. I wanted to actually learn. I won't mind sitting in a place for a year or so just to learn.
No
but I didn't see anything online.
No problem. I mean, I don't know what your background is, but for sometimes to start, passion is enough.
I have mathematics background. I'm an engineer by profession.
That's all now.
By training. I'm a civil engineer
the
by
engineer built the whole world, so that's all you need.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Wow.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. We're coming. Oh, hey, all of us. I don't know about others, but me, I'm coming. I'm taking up the offer. So, I guess that's honestly, I've had a wonderful time, and I guess because of time, we'll just try to wrap up our call it a day. However, if you have more questions, you can always send us an email, or you send just send us an email here at Octave Analytics, and we'll forward the email to Mr. Tofa so that when he has time, he can always answer your questions. And I don't know, sir, can we follow you on, any of the social media platforms like LinkedIn? I guess LinkedIn is like the proper place where we can,
Yeah. So I'm on LinkedIn, but I'm a dinosaur. I'm not on Facebook. But I'm LinkedIn and maybe WhatsApp. I don't have time for those ones.
Yes, of course. We totally understand, sir. So you can always send a request. You can also send a message like, "Oh, we are part of the grant training program," and stuff like that. And just that's how you can start networking and stuff. But I guess basically today was just a fantastic session. I mean, personally for me, I would just say this: I really didn't know anything about the oil and gas industry. Let me just put it out there. But the first slides, I was all writing down, and I'm like, oh wow, I actually didn't know that's how oil and gas was formed and stuff like that. So basically, I hope everyone was able to learn a few things, one or two things about today's session, and we're just so grateful, sir. Mr. Haruna, we deeply want to appreciate you. We know what it took for you to join us. As you said, the village people didn't want you to, join us, but eventually you did, and we're just very elated, sir. Thank you very much for your time. We know you're a very busy person, and for you to have taken out the time to speak to us, it really shows your passion and what you really wanted to impact knowledge today, and we are really glad. Thank you so much. And for everyone that came, especially for the newbies, thank you again for joining us and for sticking around. Okay, before I keep on talking, let's just do what we normally do. So, sir, what we usually do is, just because we are not in it's not a physical meeting where we can stand up and cheer you and clap for you and give you a standing ovation. We do something where everyone unmutes their mic and we just say thank you. So can we all, in our usual tradition, can we all unmute our mics and thank away?
Maybe I'll be the first to say thank you. I mean, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Henry.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for listening. I hope I've
Oh no, sir, you have actually, in fact,
thankful for the opportunity.
More than enough. We have written down and we've written all our notes, and we are just so happy that you came for today's session. And so on that note, I want to end today's session. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us, and you do have a lovely enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, everyone, and bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.